Hey guys, it's Hart. Going to be breaking down this 7 game NBA slate here for Saturday night. It is the afternoon, so I'm going to make this a quick breakdown just so I can get this out to you guys here. So we do have some interesting news that will kind of change the slate how we want to attack it. But make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. I'll be breaking down this whole slate, going through my favorite core plays as well as an early look build lineup for you guys here tonight. So make sure to hit that like button. If you guys want more in-depth breakdowns and content, make sure to check out my Patreon link down below. As you guys can see here, I'll give you guys a quick preview of my cheat sheet I did for yesterday's game. We'll go over the key injury news, go over the winning lineup from the night before, kind of talk through my slate theory and lineup build, and then I'll go through all the game by game breakdowns. As you guys can see, the game total, the spread. Obviously, that changes. I can't constantly update that, but kind of midday, that's what it will be. And then the projected lineup, as well as the injury news, and kind of how I like to attack each team, as you guys can see here. Do it for every single team. Talk through my favorite plays. Go through like the usage with main guys out like SGA. Threw up this chart here, as you guys can see. All the good stuff in this breakdown on my Patreon link down below. My core plays, as well as Prize Picks, which will be coming soon. And the core plays were solid yesterday. Josh Hart, I think he was like 34, 37. Jalen Williams fouled out in an extremely high scoring game. That was super frustrating there. But I think he's still at 32. Isaiah Joe had 20. I also said Luke Kennard, you can go with him. I think he had 22. I don't know what Shaden Sharp finished with. I think he did okay, not the best. Even with overtime, I think he still got what 30s, maybe 35, something like that. So nothing too crazy there, but still pretty solid day overall there for the core plays. I just didn't pick the right other plays. But for this quick 7 game slate here, let's quickly check the game totals. So 239.5, 4 point spread for the Hornets Pacers game. Really, really like targeting this game here. Probably my favorite game to target just because that game total. Two young teams, two very bad teams. Or I guess the Pacers are pretty solid, but the Hornets god awful. Hawks Pelicans 235.5, 1.5 point spread. That's pretty interesting as well. Lakers Magic, not a lot to like there unless Fultz is out once again. 225.5 game total. Nets Celtics 10 point spread, a huge blowout risk there. Ben Simmons is out, Claxton's still out, so that game could go awry very fast there with how Boston's been playing. 228 total. Kings Rockets very interesting as well. Surprised that game total's not a little bit higher just with how the Kings play. I know Donovan Mitchell is not in, so or excuse me, De'Aaron Fox is not in, so that does, I guess, lower the pace for the Kings a bit. But still, you think with them in the Rockets, it'd be a little bit high scoring there. So I think that could be a sneaky game that could blow out there. Or excuse me, shootout. 2.5 point spread, 220.5 game total. Jazz Timberwolves 225, 8 point spread, and then Bulls Nuggets 215, 10 point spread there. That is an interesting game. But so as I mentioned, this is going to be a pretty quick breakdown. So jumping into the Charlotte side here, absolutely love LaMelo Ball with this price tag. Now he has been on a minutes limit, around like 31 to 33 minutes, but still, even in that amount of time, he can absolutely break the slate. Has not been shooting the ball well, so I like buying low on him here in a great game environment. 9,100, absolutely love that price tag. I think Rozier is a decent option, mid-range option. He should play a ton of minutes. He's going to shoot the ball a ton. I just don't love the upside there with his peripheral stats just because LaMelo kind of takes up all that usage. But still, I think he's a solid play. I do have a good amount of interest in Gordon Hayward. Minutes haven't been great, kind of mid to low 30s, but still does have a ceiling there. Pretty productive when he's out there. PJ interests me as well. He's kind of like the third favorite there for me behind Gordon Hayward. Should see mid 30s minutes if he stays out of foul trouble, and he's usually productive when he's out there. So good amount of interest in those forwards there with LaMelo Ball. Rozier, I think, is a little bit riskier for me, and same thing with Mark Williams. I think they're priced about right, but they do have a ceiling and a great game environment here. Off the bench, they'll throw in some Theo, Thor, Richards, and Miller. I think Miller obviously is going to be the best of the bunch. Should play anywhere from, like, as you can see, low 20s to mid 30s minutes. Should be very aggressive there. Obviously, it helps if the game blows out, but this game should be pretty close. So I think it's a fine price tag for him. Wouldn't go out of my way to play him. Richards, we'll see, anywhere from 12 to 20 minutes. It really depends on if Mark Williams gets a foul trouble. Don't think you need to go to him. Thor is there, but very, very unproductive. So I would not go there at 3,500. And Theo, I guess you can go there. He's actually seen decent minutes. As you can see, he's been decently productive. So I think I'd rather go to him than Thor if you're going to go that route there for very, very cheap value. On the Pacers side, obviously the big news here is Halliburton and Smith. If Halliburton's out, we're going to want to load up on at least Nemhard, if not at least Nemhard and McConnell, just because they're two very, very productive guards when Halliburton is out. So those two would pretty much be locks for me if there's no Halliburton. Now, if Halliburton's in, I would not get to either one of the guards. And then with Jalen Smith, if he's in, I think he's actually a pretty solid value play at 4,100. Now his minutes aren't the best as you can see, but still he's very productive. So it's kind of hard relying on the guy who's not seen a ton of minutes and who's super productive in those minutes because it's like if he comes out and gets 18 minutes but goes like 2 of 8, he's obviously not going to get you to 20 fantasy points unless he goes off for multiple steals and blocks or a ton of rebounds. So that's the risk there with him. But I do think he's a pretty solid play. Now, if he's out, that will just be more minutes to guys like kind of like these wing guys like a Buddy Hield, Bruce Brown, Benedict Mathurin. They'll spread some to Naismith off the bench there, who would be an interesting play at 5,100. He'd probably be my favorite of the bunch there if there is no Smith. If there is Smith, I don't have much interest in these wings or guards just because there's too many of them. It's really, really hard to pick with the one who's going to have the good game. And then obviously if Halburn's in, my interest really just sticks with Halburn and Turner. I feel safest with Halburn. He has massive upside there. If he just hits his shots, he's been struggling from three. He could easily go for like a 30 and 15 game there with assists. I mean, he's just been absolutely fantastic the past year and a half. So really, really like him. 9,200. Turner just a little bit too boomer bust for me at that price tag. Rather get to other players, but I think he's a solid play here in this matchup. Lakers, a team that's very, very short-handed, as you guys can see. Prince is out for this game tonight. Vincent out for this game as well. Rui out for this game. And then Vanderbilt has obviously been out for the season so far. So they are extremely shorthanded. Off the bench, we'll pretty much just see Christian Wood, Cam Reddish, Cam Reddish started. So off the bench, we saw they started Davis, LeBron, Russell, Reeves, and then Cam Reddish. And off the bench, it was Wood, Hayes, Christie. And I think that was it. Like they only played 3 guys off the bench. So there's a ton of minutes for these Lakers guys. The price is about right, but still, with the minutes they're getting, it's going to be, one of those things where you want to get to at least 2 Lakers. I like Anthony Davis. It's just one of those things he seems to disappear at times, even though he's been on a great streak here the past 4 games, pretty much 60 or more fantasy points. But we know with him, it could be one of those things where he goes out and scores 30 because he just doesn't get involved in the spots that he should and absolutely dominates. Like tonight, no Wendell. I mean, who's going to be the starting center? Mo Wagner? I mean, they really don't have anyone else. I mean, Jonathan Isaac's a pretty solid defender. Maybe they get him involved. But anyways, like Anthony Davis should absolutely feast tonight. But it's one of those things where it seems every time he's in a fantastic spot, he just absolutely fails. But I have a ton of interest in this Lakers team just because they're very, very short-handed. So it's like you want to get to at least 1, if not 2 of them. So Anthony Davis, great. LeBron, I'm still iffy on his minutes. I mean, obviously he's just not been in that mental limit they said he was going to be, that 28 to like 31 minutes, because he's been blown by that. But yeah, they really need him. So wouldn't be surprised if he plays more than 30 minutes once again. I think he's a very, very solid price tag. I absolutely love D'Lo at this price tag. It just comes down to can he hit his shots. If he can, he's way more productive than a 6.4K player. Reeves, they're going to really need him. He should play a ton of minutes as well. So I think he's very interesting. Love Wood there at that price tag, 5,200. I mean, he's pretty much going to be one of the only guys that are coming off the bench. So he should be very, very solid and aggressive. And then Cam Reddish should start once again, 4,000. A guy who should see probably 25 to 30 plus minutes. I mean, he's not going to shoot the ball a ton, but as you can see, he's pretty solid defensively. He can get those peripheral stats. And if he will see 30 plus minutes at 4,000, it's really hard not to lock him in. And then sure, you can get to Christie or Hayes off the bench, but I don't love it. So I will throw Reddish in there for right now. On the Orlando side here, obviously the big news is Wendell, Fultz, and Gary Harris. With Wendell being out, I'm assuming since obviously Anthony Davis is on the other side, they'll probably go with Mo Wagner, which makes him an interesting play there. 5,100, mid-20s minutes, he'll probably see if he can stay out of foul trouble. He's decently productive as well, so I don't mind him there at 5,100. Then maybe they get weird. They can go with Goga. They can give him more minutes. He can be an interesting value play. We really just had to wait for the starting lineup here. So wait for the updates there. But we could see more minutes for a guy like Jonathan Isaac, who, has been seeing okay minutes so far, but he's a very, very solid defender. Pretty tall as well. So they could definitely use him against Anthony Davis. So I would not be surprised if that happens as well. Don't love the price tag just for his minutes, but that could definitely become a thing. Obviously, if Fultz is in, I think he's a solid option if he's not a minutes limit. If he's out, you're probably going to want to look to a guy like Cole Anthony, who should be very aggressive off the bench. And obviously, the offense will just run even more through Franz and Paolo, which, make very solid plays. They were both very aggressive that last game. Both had really, really solid games. So they both, take even more usage there point guard wise without Fultz. But if Fultz is back, I think they kind of dropped down to more just solid plays. Nothing too crazy there. And it'd really just be the Cole Anthony show for me. So I'm going to throw him in for right now. Moving on to ATL and New Orleans Pelicans here. Atlanta side, I think it's a cheap price tag for Trae Young. I mean, I keep saying it. He just has not been shooting the ball well, but once he does, he's going to go for 50, 55 plus. DeJounte's price about right. Capella is there. You know, with these wings, Johnson always looks the best just because he's been the most productive of the group. But I mean, Hunter has a ceiling if he hits his shots. He's seen the minutes as well. I mean, we know Kongwu, don't love the price tag there. His minutes have been up a little bit here, but I just still don't trust those minutes. Bogdan, pretty cheap here, but his minutes have not been the best. It really just comes down to can he hit his shots, or if someone gets in foul trouble in the starting unit, you know, Bogdan will get more run. And then Bay's there as well. So it's like they do have a good amount of wings, and that's why you kind of feel the safest going to Jalen, who's starting and kind of been the most productive. But those other guys can definitely get you there if you do land on them. Don't really think any of them stands out besides maybe Bogdan, just because he does feel the safest at times. But they're all there. They're fine plays. On the Pelican side here, the big news here is Brandon Ingram. If he's out, once again, Zion, CJ, J-Val, Herb Jones all look great. And they did go a little bit weird there. They started Matt Ryan that last game, and he shot the ball very well. I would not chase this. He's just only a shooter. As you can see, he only got 2 rebounds, 2 assists, but 20 points. So if he doesn't hit his shots, he's not going to get you there at 4,400. There's way better value than him. And then Daniels, he was super chalk, did not, or excuse me, not Daniels. Where do you go? Hawkins was super chalk, did not do well. 29 minutes, 1 of 7. Absolutely busted after having 2 straight games of, you know, bringing a very solid value play. So once again, I probably feel safest with Daniels. Off the bench there, he's not going to be super aggressive offensively, but he's one of those guys. He's kind of like a Kyle Anderson. You know, he can do a little bit of everything, which you saw last game, 10, 7, and 6. So I still think he'd be my favorite value play off the bench there. And then obviously you'd probably want one of the Pelicans. I mean, CJ's the cheapest of like the stars. But I think they're all kind of priced about right. So nothing like screams at me to be like, oh, you want them, even though it's a good matchup against Atlanta. Boston and Brooklyn here. Obviously, this game is very, very, there's a lot of blowout here. The Celtics have been absolutely super efficient, blowing out pretty much everyone, have not lost a game yet. So huge blowout risk here, according to Vegas, 10-point spread. So I think you guys are all priced about right. Actually, maybe a little bit too cheap if you think this game stays close. I mean, Tatum's been absolutely fantastic there. The engine of this offense. Brown has, you know, been up and down, but still there. There is no Derek White. So that could definitely be a huge boost here for Drew Holiday. And then we could definitely see some decent minutes off the bench there for Pritchard. Obviously, you can't expect that last game there. He got a lot of blowout run, but I would assume anywhere from like 13 to 20 minutes here for Pritchard. And he's a pretty productive player when he's out there. Like, he will be aggressive, can get assists. So actually, I do have a good amount of interest there in Pritchard as like a cheaper guard if you want to pivot off like the other chalky guards in the slate. He is pretty interesting there. And then that's really it. I mean, they'll throw the minutes to Pritchard, you know, Hauser, Horford off the bench. It'll be interesting to see who they start. I'm assuming they'd probably start Hauser. Probably start him as shooting guard, which makes him an okay play. And then off the bench, we'll see Horford, Pritchard, and then maybe a little bit of like Delano Banton. Nothing crazy there. Maybe some Cornette. I do think they'll spread it out. Maybe they'll go with, you know, Brissett as well. They did use him a couple games ago. So they could definitely get weird. I don't think there's really anything that stands out besides Pritchard there. And obviously, if you want to take a shot on Holiday, I don't mind that at all. He should be playing pretty solid minutes, but obviously it's just the blowout risk there. So for me, I'm personally going to stay away, but obviously they have huge upside, and I don't mind getting to them because they should all be pretty low owned. On the Brooklyn side here, no Simmons, no Claxton, no Cam Johnson. So with no Simmons, I think they'll start obviously Bridges, Thomas, Dinwiddie, DFS, and I would assume Royce O'Neal. Now, they are giving up a lot of height to Porzingis, but obviously Porzingis is more of a wing player, not really a post-up guy. So I don't really think they'll bring in like a De'Aaron Sharp. But yeah, I expect huge minutes there for Royce O'Neal and DFS, as we saw last game. So I think, you know, Royce O'Neal is probably my favorite, but they're both definitely in play there. Yeah, I do like Royce O'Neal a good amount. And offensively, obviously Dinwiddie, Thomas, and Bridges will lead the team. I think my favorite is Dinwiddie there. 31 minutes, wasn't that aggressive. Has become more of an assist guy here on the Nets, but still, he has massive upside if he does get aggressive offensively, and they're going to need his offense here to keep this game close. So I don't mind him there. Probably be my favorite play there alongside Royce O'Neal. And then off the bench, I don't mind taking a shot on Lonnie, especially if this game blows out. He definitely could see some more minutes, or DSJ here. He could see some more minutes if this game does blow out. So there's some options there, but nothing too crazy on the Brooklyn side. For Utah here, um, I think Laurie's always a solid contrarian spin up option. Jordan Clarkson still very cheap here for his role, as you guys can see the past 2 games there. Did not shoot the ball well, but still went for 30 plus fantasy points. Kessler has some solid upside. He's kind of up and down. Collins priced about right. I do think it'd just probably be Kelly O or Clarkson for me who have interest. I mean, they just play a lot of guys a lot of minutes, so not a lot to like they're off the bench, but yeah, don't mind Laurie's a contrarian spin up. Clarkson does feel a little bit too cheap, kind of for his given role and his usage. Does have a pretty solid ceiling there, so he'd probably be my favorite play, and that's it. Minnesota side, I think Anthony Edwards comes in at a fantastic price tag here, 8,800. Same thing with Towns. Really, really like both of these guys. They do feel way too cheap here in a great, great matchup. Gobert's fine. Conley's there. He's pretty cheap. Naz Reid off the bench has been very, very solid. Kyle Anderson, yeah, he's fine. But it's really, for me, it's just going to be Anthony Edwards, Carl Towns. Absolutely love those two tonight. Sacramento, obviously no De'Aaron Fox still. So, David Mitchell's a fine play. 4,800. Kind of went off there. 13, 4, and 3 with 3 steals. That really helped out. He's a fine play. I still prefer getting to Herter or Monk there. They should lead the team in terms of the point guard role, and they're both pretty productive. Herter has not been shooting the ball well at all the past few years, but still, he's definitely solid. A very cheap price tag. So if you're going to get a piece from Sacramento, obviously I'd say it's going to be Sabonis. I actually really like Keegan Murray here as like a kind of a sneaky mid-range play. He should really step up. Had a poor game shooting there, but still very, very productive. So I'm going to throw him in for right now because I want at least one piece from the Sacramento team, and it's going to be Keegan Murray for me, but I don't mind Sabonis as a spend up, and I do really like Herter or Monk there as the guards for me. And then we will see some Vesnikov and Duarte, but nothing too crazy here. I just stick to one of those 2 guards, Sabonis or Keegan Murray. For Houston here, everyone seems priced about right. I do think that, Smith and Green do feel a bit too cheap here, but still, it kind of seems like this offense is a little bit spread out. Jabari Smith just doesn't see a ton of shots, even though he's been very productive. So nothing really sticks out to me. It's just, I do think they all kind of feel priced about right, but still great matchup here versus Sacramento. And then on to the last game here, Chicago and Denver. Huge blowout risk here. Both teams are on the back-to-back. It seems like everyone should be good to go on the both side besides DeRozan. Obviously, if he's out, that's just a bump to Levine, bump to Vooch, bump to Kobe White, which all would be very interesting plays there. And then off the bench, we should get some more minutes for Caruso, who'd be a pretty decent value play there, as well as Jalen Carter. And then I think Pat Williams would probably be my favorite. He should be pretty aggressive there as kind of the third option off the bench, or maybe they could start him. We'll have to see there. But they did start Torrey Craig that last game. Did not do a ton, but at 3,500, if he starts again, I do think he sees mid-20 minutes. So he's definitely a strong value play down there if this game stays close. And obviously, if there is DeMar, then they're all kind of just there for me. Nothing really sticks out besides maybe Torrey Craig if he does start again as a value play. And then on the Denver side here, Jokic looks fantastic if you want to pay up for him. Murray, same thing. They should absolutely both be able to eat. Going to be a nice mismatch in this game here for Gordon. So I don't mind going to him, but still a little bit too risky for me there. He's not always involved. MPJ is always a strong play there in the mid-range because he always shoots, never passes. And that's really it. Everyone's kind of priced about right for me in terms of the value. It's really just Jokic, Murray, or MPJ for me. So that's going to be the slate breakdown for you guys today. Obviously, wish we get the DeRozan news now just because it could affect things there and make some of those guys very viable. But right now, really, really like kind of this early look build. I also really like trying to want to try to get to at least one of Anthony Edwards or Towns in my lineup. So I'll probably have to move some stuff around. But right now, I think this is a pretty solid early look build here for you guys. So as always, stay up to date with me on my Patreon. I'll continue to do the core play posts on my Twitter until tomorrow night. And then I'll make these videos. I'll have these core play videos, but then all my updates and all my breakdowns will just be on my Patreon. But to finish out this lineup, right now, let's just go with... We'll go with Torrey Craig. Yeah, so I think it's a pretty solid lineup. We do have to kind of wait for that Halliburton news that kind of changes the whole, beginning of the slate, how we want to attack it. So once again, hit that like button. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.